This month we're doing something different. Usually we have a speaker come present on a specific topic. This is Intersessions panelist style. And what we're going to be doing is discussing just lessons learned in marketing and building small businesses. And just we have a bunch of different perspectives here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the line and introduce everybody. And then we will, we have some questions already from previous to the show. But if you have questions at any time, feel free to raise your hands. This is meant to be conversational. This is not go down the line kind of thing. So look at it like a live podcast. It's just good discussion. So I'm going to do a round of introductions here. I'm going to start from the end and work my way, but we'll start with you.
I'm Brittany Scott. I own Grow with Women. So it's a networking and marketing, networking and conference company. It does events around the state of Indiana for women in business.
My name is Katie Magger, and I am currently the Director of Membership and Marketing with the Greater Muncie Chamber of Commerce. But my background has always been in marketing, in particular nonprofit marketing.
Gary Thomas with Leap IT. I'm one of the co-owners with my brother, third generation technology company. We kind of were birthed in 1930 by our grandfather in the typewriter space. So we went through a lot of iterations. So small business is kind of really where we live. So yeah.
And Brandon Coppernall, Managing Director at Intersections. So lead the operations and client relationships at Intersection. My background starts way back in 2005 in just a small web development shop, and then spent about a decade at Ball State University, and then last 5 years been at Intersection providing marketing and branding services for clients. So I'm just going to start it off with a couple of questions that we did have, and then again, hopefully we see some questions from the group. This might spur some, but I like to start with this one because a lot of us, or probably all of us, have dealt with this at some point. Limited time, limited budget, small business just starting out. Where did you focus first? Where do you recommend focusing first, getting out there?
I always say relationships. The relationships that I've built are where a lot of sponsorships, partnerships, things that, like opportunities that I've had have come from relationships. And I think a big part of building your brand is for people getting to know you and who you are and what you stand for and what you believe in. So stuff like this, honestly, is a really great place to start.
Our journey, we've obviously changed the company multiple times. We had a big name change. We've had to attract different talent internally. So, selling to those type folks that we were hopefully would be good employees for us one day, right? As we change the dynamic of the company. So where did we start? A lot of it was hand-to-hand combat and sales, right? We'd go to chamber events. We would meet people at these type things and, try to see what was happening and how do we, gain traction. We got smarter where we kind of stepped back a little bit and started building more of a peer group internally and some of our vendors and some of our great clients to see, what can we be doing different? Because I think it gets super confusing now. There's so many different channels that, how do you focus on everything, which we, Jason and I just talked about a little bit. It's really hard and complicated, and we don't want everybody as a client. So we have to figure out who do we want to market to and who do we not want to market to. So we kind of took a big step back with our planning and then really worked on execution, and then also say, hey, we're going to burn money at the end of the day and see how this goes. And sometimes we go, well, that sucked. But we're not going to do that again, or we're going to change and modify, kind of what we're trying to do and accomplish. But it's kind of, it flows. So sometimes there's a dam at the end of it, and that wasn't what we wanted. But that's also the good and fun part.
Yeah, and I would say on top of the limitations of time and maybe budget is, I think when I started my career. And it's still a thing, social media. We talk about social media all the time, and it kind of feels like the golden egg sometimes. But I think that a limitation that I have seen, again, in addition to the time and the budget, is that I think we can all relate in that we're just inundated all the time. There's so much going on. And so as a brand, as a business, it's that challenge of, okay, how do I cut through and how do I reach that person? In the midst of all of the noise, I guess you can say. So kind of, yeah, going to what they say as far as, for small businesses and community businesses, this is not my plug for the chamber, but doing things like going to events at the chamber or just events like this, I think finding ways to create those relationships and then getting to know, of course, your clients. I think we'll probably maybe talk more later, but I think client testimonials can be huge. That's a person that you've worked with that they can say, hey, I have this personal experience. Because people look at the reviews, they want to know, they want to cut through the noise. We all, you can say great things about yourself, but if you have someone else doing it for you, I feel like that can be really beneficial too. So.
And it sounded like a plug for the chamber.
I didn't mean for it to be you started it. So.
Well, and I've had the opportunity to work with all of you in different capacities over the time, and one thing like Brittany, you did a presentation on making the ask. That's part of building the relationships and understanding who your audience was. If you came out the gate and just started doing social media from Grow WeWo, like, who would be listening, right? So you went and you made a lot of connections, but then you learned how to make an ask. Your sales looked a little bit different than maybe some of the folks in here, but you want to talk about that, like just kind of fostering that direct relationship, because I do think that is, that is your chance to tell a story at a deeper level, get someone to understand by, and I think it does also dovetail in a little bit what you were talking about with testimonials. So. Yeah,
I am not a salesperson. I say that in almost every meeting I ever have when I'm pitching to somebody, because I'm like, look, if you're looking for somebody like Gary to sell to you, it's not going to be me. Like, I can't do it. But I can just be really honest and tell them, be really passionate about who I am and what we do. And in the presentation I do about the big ask, I call it earning the right to ask. I think that's the mistake a lot of people make when they go to ask for something, is they haven't built a relationship, so they just come in hot being like, hey, this is my company, and here, give me $10,000. That's a real easy no, right? That's a real easy no from whoever it is that you're asking from. But if you take time to build a relationship with someone, and I always say, especially in like those first few meetings, the meeting should be as much about the other person as possible. Ask them as many questions as you can about them, about their business, about their kids, about what they like to do outside of work. Because if they leave feeling like they were really cared about, the odds of you being able to make an ask in the future and building on that relationship are a lot higher. So earn the right to ask by building a relationship that's not just around work, but show people that you care about them, and they're way more likely to invest in you and be invested in your success.
So you realize you are a salesperson then, because that's exactly what sales is a relationship.
Maybe.
You don't feel like you want to be a salesperson.
Well, Len, I think you're 100% right. I think anymore with probably everybody in this group, we're all probably are the best salespeople at our companies, right? At the end of the day, we can answer the questions. I know you're looking at her like, yes, right? That's what we do. But I think then how do you transfer that knowledge to other employees is really, really hard, because they're going to handle things differently than maybe what I would, or don't feel like they're empowered to make an individual one-on-one decision to solve a client's problem, or to, what drives me crazy right now is a business owner, and we're doing okay. We get a lot of asks, and I know when I go to a chamber meeting or whatever, no one's going to follow up, but they're going to come ask me for stuff immediately. Can I be in your golf outing? Can you do this? It's still marketing and sales, but I know they're not going to follow up. And there's no value that they're helping bring to me or giving me the opportunity to bring value back to them, which that's what we enjoy doing. So it's like, how do you mesh the marketing with the sales piece? It's really challenging and hard. And that's one thing we've done is we've kind of dissect every touch point we have with a customer and say that's an opportunity for us to market. It's an opportunity to serve the client at a higher level. I was telling somebody I followed a truck down Kilgore today that looked all beat to hell, right? We all know it had ladders on the back of it's all what, and I'm like, and it pulls into the YOC, I'm sure it's one of their vendors, but I'm like, what a missed opportunity. One, your vehicle looks terrible. I'm sure you probably do a decent job. One, I don't even know who to call to tell you like, hey, maybe I need drywall done or whatever, but I'm just like, what a missed opportunity. Doesn't have to be fancy, but something. And take it through Clancy's every once in a while, right? Like, it's a reflection, and I think it's another marketing piece that goes, we have branded stuff for all of our technicians to wear and all of our team members to wear. I can control that as a business owner. It's very light marketing, but it makes my techs feel better when they go to the innovation connector and they go to the front counter and someone doesn't know who they are. Well, they know they see the LEAP logo. It makes them feel better. They've seen it on a car. They're familiar with it. It's the little bitty things that we're really trying to win at right now. But it's not easy.
But with branding specifically, you're showing trust by having them wear the logo.
Oh, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
trust.
And I can control it. I know what my competition wears on a day-to-day basis being in IT. It's bedazzled jeans and tennis shoes, right? Maybe a t-shirt. I know where the bar is, right? Well, why are we going to be that way? Do I expect somebody to show up in a suit and tie? Sometimes. Be appropriate for whatever, but our clients expect more, right? And that's the way we kind of try to sell it, where it's like, we're going to do stuff different than what our competitors are doing. So, and it's little stuff. Not that they're terrible, they're fantastic. They do a really good job, but we can outsmart you in different ways.
I mean, that's how we win the game. You just up the bar this much, honestly. You don't have to go way up. You don't have to spend tens and thousands of dollars.
Totally agree. Mostly now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this kind of dovetails to one of the questions that we had. It's just strategies to remain consistent in branding, whether that is presentation, but also messaging, and I think part of that is, again, those relationships you build with, whether they're sponsors, whether they're vendors, whether they're customers or clients, understanding and knowing them and knowing their pains so that you can provide value and share that value. So how do you maintain consistency in branding in your different organizations?
Brittany, I think you do as good a job as anybody with being consistent. Yeah, I mean, I see it on LinkedIn whether I want to or not, right? But it's good and it's consistent, and that's awesome.
Well, to be fair, for Grow, someone else does all the marketing. We rebranded in July. I am banned from our Canva. I'm not allowed in there.
That's awesome.
And I'm allowed, but they're like, don't touch anything. If you want to touch anything, you have to ask. So they've done a great job with the rebrand. They handle Grow's page, but I think to what Gary's saying is I worked with someone on my personal brand because my concern was, as Grow is still a baby, we're not even 3, I didn't want to become inextricably intertwined with Grow. I didn't want Grow to be me and vice versa. So we worked on extrapolating those things out. So I worked a lot on my own personal brand, and that's what I do a lot on LinkedIn. And a lot of it's just consistency. I didn't wear green today, but lots of times when I'm speaking on behalf of Grow, most of the pictures you'll see of me, I'm in green because that's our company color. And then we worked on pillars. So there's really only 4 things that I post about on LinkedIn or in a business setting. So that helps things stay consistent. And even though you guys don't know what they are, there's some kind of you'll know kind of what to expect from me when you see a post.
What are they?
Being a business owner, being a dog mom and a personal trainer, that's also what I do. Being a connector, and then being a learner and having a growth mindset. So everything I post is in one of those 4 categories, and then it makes posting a lot easier for me as well because I just have to put it in one of those buckets and send it out.
You make those noises.
I do when I'm
the button.
typing it.
I would do it more often if I was making
Yeah.
notes.
You should try it.
What about you, Katie?
I mean, I will be honest, branding is a love of mine. Now, I'm not like Brandon, I don't get to do it every day. I manage our own brand, but it's huge and it's so important and a lot of times underrated. Sometimes I see brands and they don't know who they are. They don't know how to represent themselves. And so I think figuring out, who you are, what you do, what's important to you, and then really backing, having even things like having your logo, having your brand colors, do not stray from that. It's confusing. You know who you are, you know what you do, but again, you're cutting through all that noise. And if I'm seeing from someone and one day they're using these colors and this look and the next day they're using this color and this look, I'm like, who is that? What's going on? So I think there's things like that, kind of like Gary was saying, sometimes it is the little things, but just being consistent and being, again, knowing who you are, owning that, doing a good job with that. I think branding is huge, and I think a lot of people maybe don't give it the time that it needs. And it's not as hard as people might think it is. It's just that consistency. It really is, knowing who you are and being consistent with that. So again, you're cutting through that noise, and if people are seeing something different from you every time they're looking at you or hearing from you, then they're not going to remember. So
when we went through our name change from, which my dad hated, right? He was second generation, and we changed the name from, Thomas Office Solutions to Leap Managed IT, and everybody thought we sold the business and that kind of thing. We invested, and Brandon could talk about this stuff too. We thought it was really important to protect our brand and the new image that we wanted to project. So we invested and we brought in somebody to do, kind of that style guide approach and what's the personas that we're looking for. It was not cheap, but it's probably the best thing that we invested in. Because then it was like, we want to protect our asset, which is our frog. I have frog socks on today. We kind of interject frog stuff in everything that we do, because it's also not IT, right? Where somebody can see that and go, we see those Toyota Priuses around, we see the box trucks, we see the signs in Indy, we see that stuff, and they might not know what we do, but they know it's done at a different and high level, because again, they know what our competition does, and they put network cables in Microsoft, and nobody knows what any of that shit is at the end of the day, right? They just know I need to do my job, but I need a team to help me along the way that's friendly. They have a good sense of humor and personality. That's what we've tried to bring out in some of the stuff we've done. But we've really tried to make sure we protect the brand. And it's hard to do, totally hard to do. So,
an advice I will have is have one person, depending on your organization. Brittany was kind of mentioning this. She has a team that leads their branding, their marketing, and that's who does it. No one else touches it. I would recommend that. I've worked only nonprofit, and I have seen where if multiple people are touching it, everyone's got ideas, then it gets lost. It gets away from your branding gets away from what it was supposed to be. And so I would say have someone on your team that owns that, and that is the person that touches it, and no one else touches it. So that can be easier said than done, but that is my recommendation.
And that's our struggle at the moment. Like right now we're doing it by committee. My sister-in-law, my brother, myself, maybe a couple other random people that, we're doing marketing by committee, and we've grown to the point it doesn't work very well anymore. Like we all have a really good idea in an event, and we're going to do this, which works out really fantastic, and that's sometimes where we end up burning cash at the end of the day and go, that didn't really go how we thought. And so one thing that we're going to step back and do first quarter is really start working on, do we need to hire somebody in this bucket? Do we need to, invest more in an intersection? Those kind of things. Because now we're to that point. And whether you're a one-person shop or almost 50, it's the same things, right? It's like, how do I carve this time out to make sure it's important and it's still living and breathing the way it should? It's the most important thing we have, is our name and our image.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll pull some experience back at Ball State University. We had the Cardinal Red, and our goal was always when someone sees that Cardinal Red, they're going to think of Ball State University. Similar how you see Coca-Cola Red, that's a Coke, right? Or IU has its dark red, and we wanted to be able to establish that. So we had the challenge of, hundreds of departments across the university trying to get them to buy into it and stay within the university colors, the university look, so we can kind of create this, because it does kind of, like a knife, cut through the noise. If you see those things, you see the frog, you see the leap red, you can see that the green for grow. I often find myself advising clients, you're probably getting closer on your brand when you start getting tired of it. Because you're living it every day. You should feel a little bit of weariness internally, like, am I doing stuff? But the reality is there's still a massive percentage of people that probably still haven't even seen it. And so like fighting that urge to change up your colors, change up your fonts, change up, there should be a good business or audience reason to change your brand. So maintaining that is hard. And there's ways around it, right? Okay, well, instead of this graphic or instead of making a graphic, we're just going to show photography in this piece because maybe this will do better. There's ways to mix it up, but maintaining that consistency, it is a game of kind of testing will and patience and saying, okay, like this is who we are and we're standing by that and growing. really great insights. Do we have any questions from the group? Anything that's popped up before I move on to any other questions that we had kind of primed? This is an open forum. Yeah.
So you had mentioned that, which I relate to, but that there are some people you don't want as clients.
Yes. If that was to me, yes.
How do you, and I'm not going to ask you to
No, go
if you do or don't want it,
No, I'll talk about it. I'll totally talk about it.
but as far as like, how do you decide how, like, this is the group of people that I want as clients, how do I reach them specifically and not necessarily this other group that I'm not that interested in?
Do you mind if I repeat it for
Yeah, go for
the people? So the question for those online is, how do you decide who do you want to work with, just as much as how you decide who you don't want to work with? Is that fair?
How do you reach those people?
And how do you reach those people? Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Great question, and I think part of it just comes with the maturity of your organization, right? Hey, we found a client that we really like. They pay their bills. They don't yell at my team. They're easy to work with. They invest in technology. They see us as a valued partner to what they do. We found that there's certain organizations, and it's no fault of theirs, right? I want to see them successful. It's just not a good fit for the way we want to do business. K-12 for us is really hard. They have all the needs. If they check all the boxes, the one they can't check for us is really, really important. They can't make decisions. And it's not because they can't or they won't. They've got other stuff coming at them from the state and budget requirements and everything else. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. It is just, how many times are we going to run, have an appointment, which we market to them, and we get the appointments with them. We have not moved one across the finish line in 3 years. Like, we are running into a brick wall every time, and we go, and sometimes we're still stupid. I still want the business. Somebody called me. There's an opportunity, and we're just like, dumbasses. Here comes that brick wall again, and we run right into it. It's hard, right? Because it is all of our businesses. It's important, and we want to win, right? We want the cash register to ring. We want the revenue, and we do too. But as we're now getting more mature, we're also saying, hey, we love K-12. We want you to be successful. Well, I'm going to refer you now to somebody else that maybe makes more sense. I'm going to still give you the information, but we've also set it up a little bit different. In our world, time, we were talking about it earlier with somebody, time is really the only thing we have to sell, right? In our world, yeah, there's laptops and firewalls and all this stuff, but our people time is really our most important asset. Every minute we have an asset that goes away. We just burn money and time if we're even just sitting around the water cooler and having a conversation. So how can we be more on point with the customers that love us, spend money with us, are easy to work with, that value what we do every day? That's what we're starting to really figure out. There's some other buckets that it's like, they just don't work very well for us. You will never be a client of mine.
Right.
And that's okay, right? But I'm not going to market to you. So how do you find where they're at? Are they at trade shows? Are they at events? There's some amazing, assets that you can go online and kind of type in the demographics you're looking for and pay for those services. So that's really the hardest thing. We found a lot of trade shows for our government clients. That's where they're at a couple times a year. So we've now directed a lot of our assets to really look at those AIM conferences for municipalities in the state of Indiana. So we invest a lot of time, energy, and resources in there. It took us a long time to figure out that's where they all are. And we've even went to some of those conferences and had the booth and sent out marketing, and it didn't go well. We're like, what the hell, is it us? They just not like us? Well, they'd never seen our brand before. We didn't get introduced. We didn't get referred. We didn't get, that hand-to-hand combat again was very, very challenging. And now if I market to a K-12, it limits me now from maybe picking up another municipality client that we really, really love. So I'm wasting my time and lying to my team if I think that's a good customer. Shame on me. At the beginning, won't we all take it all, right? We're growing our business and we're trying to, we got payroll, right? We'll take anything, right, at the beginning, but we're not that way anymore. So it's like being really, really focused has made us now, grow at that 30-40% a year because now we're very strict on what we're trying to accomplish. So, but finding them's hard. It's the hardest part.
I think too, what we've done marketing-wise, our company has 5 core values. 2 are kind of internal facing, but 3 are really external: collaboration, adaptability, and openness. So we post a lot, like we aren't like, this is our core value, blah, blah, blah. But like a lot of our posts center around those kinds of topics and feelings. And so women who aren't collaborative by nature, who view other women as competitive, aren't going to be drawn by our social media. If they're not adaptable to hard circumstances, if they're not open about their own struggles, they're not going to be drawn to our stuff because that's what we post about, and those are the kinds of people that we attract. And so we use those core values a lot. We filter a lot of what we post, a lot of what we do at events through the core values that we have, and that helps us attract those people. And then the people that we do attract, they're friends with other people who are like them, so they bring them along to events in the future. So that has, figuring out our core values, what matters to us and what matters to our audience, has helped us attract the right people.
Have you developed those personas, like written them down, or are they just in your head?
No, we have a whole like document about
Yeah,
like
we
our
do.
mission, our vision, our core values, how we use them, how we filter stuff through them. Yeah.
Question. I'm Nick Gates, Springboard Creative, I'm a brand strategist, designer, so I'm in the same space as you guys, but I'm curious, especially with Barry up there, so having both sides. Given now, and especially yesterday, we were talking about ChatGPT and answering anything you want, where do you feel like you guys lie on the spectrum of a prospective client saying like, well, I'll just figure it out on my own because I can. I have access to Canva. I don't need your help. I can chat GPT a logo or how to make a marketing plan or whatever. So like, you know, for Brandon, maybe you're trying to sell like, no, this is our importance. But maybe for Gary, you're like, how much do you say, no, I should really outsource to a professional versus I think I can figure this out on my own for less.
Yeah, so the question for those that are online, if I can paraphrase it right, is, from an agency or business side, when you're selling to a client, they say, hey, I have access to AI or these tools, I can do it myself, versus maybe a counterpoint, someone that might be on the other side of the table that, hey, I have use these tools and how we work from that. I'll answer from my perspective. I think, especially from marketing and branding, there's always been a tug of war between DIY and what I would say professional services. And what I mean by that is, I think Gary said that really well, is a lot of what we do is we solve the problem of time. You know, we have access to either a number of clients or experiences that we have seen what works, what doesn't work, maybe in similar situations, or maybe have access to other people that we can kind of ping in our network and figure out. And then on top of that, we know, because we also use AI from time to time, we know some pitfalls or benefits from AI and how to maybe leverage those tools. But I think really what it comes down to is figuring out, again, what problem you maybe are solving for that client. But a lot of times it just comes down to time. Either I don't have the time anymore to do these kinds of things for my business, or we are at a time in our business where we have to pivot, we have to change, we have to grow. And that's the problem we're really trying to solve. And what my job is to share stories and share those experiences on this is how we can maybe be a good fit. And then, I come from a school of sales where it's about helping, but it's also about being skeptical, really trying to figure out, am I really a good fit? Can I really help this person? And really, are they a good fit for us too? You know, because at the end of the day, if they're not going to allow maybe us for our creativity and our experiences to show through, it may not be the best fit for us to be successful for them at the end of the day. So I'll turn it over to you.
There's a lot going on with that question, really.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is, my opinion, you're talking about a sales journey, right, with the client and where they're trying to go and how you want to get there to match up then with the way you want to deliver services.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, I think like most of us can't fix our own cars anymore, and so we just agree like that is a service I have to go do elsewhere.
Yep.
But because there are so many tools that are readily available,
Sure.
people think they can do stuff themselves without the site.
If I could interject
Yeah,
for just
go
a
for
second. I think this is a great thing that you're bringing up, because this is huge. Because I have found that people everyone thinks they can do marketing. And it doesn't mean they can't do some pieces, and there's a lot of free things that are really great, really helpful. I know we use a lot of free things, but like, you know, we rebranded a couple years ago. We used a local agency. I just worked with Brandon for the economic development side for a new website. That's stuff we can't do. If you can use a professional, you should, but it is hard because you're fighting against, one, people don't want to spend money, and two, they think they can do it themselves. And it's hard because you're in that situation where you're like, oh, you really can't, like it's not working. And how do you communicate that? It's hard because you can't just come out and say that. And so it's, I mean, depending on your strategy, I guess, you know, if they're not going to be a client, and you know, but I think that's a really great one because, again, even just in my positions in marketing, you know, I've had a lot of different voices coming at me, and I'm like, that's not going to work. That's not the right thing. That's not, you know, and it's marketing is huge. It's so important, but everyone thinks they can do it, and I just don't think that's true. So I think if you can use a professional, you should. Now, I see what you're saying. How do I communicate that to a client, a potential client, effectively? So, but again, I just want to say that's a great question because I think that's huge. So,
I'm going to pull like a little from my personal trainer side. Everyone can go to the gym and work out. How many people get hurt because they don't know what they're doing? So like you can do potentially more damage to your brand if you're not doing it the right way, and not necessarily damage, but you're not going to help yourself either, right? So there's a lot of things you could do on your own, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make any progress, and you might make things worse.
One thing we've done from the sales process, right? So you're having a conversation with somebody, right? They're talking to you. You don't know if they're a good fit. They're obviously there. They don't know if they're a good fit either, but they're talking to you for some reason. It's trying to figure that out. We've kind of developed our sales process to kind of say, hey, here's the way we work, and it's okay. And for some of those buckets that we're like, they're maybe not a great fit, we're in a space where we charge them for an IT master plan. So I don't say they don't waste our time, but it's not about that. It's more or less, are you seeing value in maybe outsourcing this relationship, and what does this look like? Are you trying to grow your company? And half the questions I ask aren't technology questions. They're more business operations questions. What are they trying to accomplish in life? If you could get 10 hours back per month or per week, or be more secure, or what, it's all the questions we all know. But we started developing a checklist based on different verticals about the whys. Why are people wanting to talk to us, and what are they trying to solve? It's also then said, hey, not everybody's a good fit today. You know, we have to meet them where they're at. And sometimes people call us and they have no idea what they even need to ask us. And that's okay. Hey, we just had a ransomware. Hey, we just had this. Hey, we just had somebody. I know when somebody wants to meet in my office and not in theirs, they've got a big problem. Either with a staff member, they're embarrassed about their technology or their marketing or whatever the case may be. It's a different relationship, and we're selling time, and we're selling trust. So it's like, if we can make it easier for them to buy something, I think that's the same way with marketing. If we can make them buy something that they can't touch, we can all go to Best Buy. That doesn't mean I'm going to do what I think is best for my company. And as a business owner or operations person, do you want to be wasting your time in those other buckets? I think it's naturally that we all, when we're under 10 employees, there's things we just all have to do, right? But then you get to the point you're like, if I'm going to take the next step, I have to get rid of some of this other stuff, and I have to bring in the right partner. Because I know right now where we're at, it's like we need better partners in a lot of different buckets, because we've either outgrown the relationship or they're not marketing to us internally to make my team's jobs easier. I'm struggling in those things that I don't think they're either marketing well, we're not asking the right questions, but some of my vendors stink right now. Do they even know it? Do they even know to ask those questions? And I'm sitting there going like, I need help, I think. I don't know. But I think that's where sales is dead. We've working on the marketing thing a lot, but it's like, I think the one-on-one show up, it just doesn't exist anymore. The follow-ups, the stuff that's really, really hard.
Do you work mostly with small businesses?
Yeah. Mostly. I'm a lot in I help helpers, so
Yeah.
coaches, physicians, people like that. But I have clients kind of all over the spectrum. But yeah, I mean, I think it's no matter what your business is, I think it's all in the same thing. And same thing, telling those clients like when they maybe need to go get a web developer instead of saying, well, Wix says I can do it on my
Yeah.
phone or whatever. And
Yeah.
Well, I think to Katie's point too a few minutes ago about having people tell other people say you're really good, as a small business owner who has zero extra money, the people I believe the most are other small business owners who have zero extra money. So if they come to me and I say, I spent $2,000 on this rebrand and this person, and it was amazing. That's going to be the best, if you're trying to pull in other small businesses, that's the best way you're going to do it.
Well, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier, where not everyone works for, it's not always a fit, even at the chamber. Not everyone should be a chamber member. Would I love that? Absolutely. But it doesn't make sense for everyone, And so I think it's understanding that, I have conversations with people all the time, in person, through email, on the phone. And, there's so many times where I'm like, yeah, that was a great conversation. They reached out to us. They're interested. I explained the things about membership and why they should join, and then nothing. That happens all the time. And, it is hard because there's times where I'm like, I feel like I'm wasting my time, but I'm like, that is my job, is to be there and answer those questions. And it could be that we got to the end of that and I could have been super compelling, but it still may just not have made sense for them. And that's okay. And it could maybe later, maybe they think I got this on my own for a little bit, which they might, but they might say I got this on my own for a little bit. They might go for a little bit and go, I don't. But we've built that relationship. And so I always leave it at, if you ever need anything, if you have any questions, please let me know. And so I think, again, seems like it keeps coming back to that relationship building. But again, it is understanding that not everyone is going to be a fit. That's frustrating and that's hard, especially when you're just trying to get business. But you'd rather spend your time and effort with someone who understands you and appreciates you, and utilizes you, instead of someone that you're constantly trying to convince, because that's hard, and that wastes your time, their time. So,
One thing
I saw a question over here, but I got one more thing to close that out. So if you got one more,
I have one thing that I think one of the most important things we did is, you were kind of talking about, the whole marketing piece. One thing we did is we invested in a CRM, and then we had to beat ourselves into submission to use it. Because we're also then marketing to the folks that then maybe said no. And now we are seeing a lot of success in folks that are coming back. They went with a different competitor. They boomeranged back to us as well, or now they've gotten more information. Before, probably 3 or 4 years ago, we left them to die alongside the road. That was our fault. But we identified that as something like, should we invest time and effort into that? They already knew the brand, they knew us, they liked us. We met with them. They just weren't ready yet. And then I think then we've now really worked on then our drip campaigns and how we're doing things. And we've invested a lot of energy and effort in that one piece. So that's all. I was just saying the CRM thing is huge. Yeah. Huge. One that's way too expensive, Microsoft Dynamics, but we're a Microsoft shop. But there's Pipedrive that's $10 a month per user. There's some amazing tools. Some of them still stink in certain buckets, but you guys probably have a...
Yeah, we're a HubSpot partner.
Yeah, HubSpot. There's so many that just using something, even if you're a single operator, I think is just a massive, massive piece.
So the thing I was going to close with is there's so much overlap in marketing and sales. Gary said something that is part of our process before and after the sale, which is asking questions about the business or about customers that really isn't about marketing. It's about understanding. There's a bit of a psychology there to understand. And once you really understand what problems you're truly solving for them, they always talk about you're selling the hole in the wall, not the screwdriver, or not the cordless drill, right? You're selling the hole in the wall. When they're selling a mop, they're selling the dog that drags mud through the house and you got to clean that up because there's a party going to start and you want to save time. They're selling that, not the mop itself. So understanding, like, in your case, you're helping the helpers, understanding all the balls they're juggling, pun somewhat intended, to help them focus on what ultimately they're responsible for. That's where you fit, that's why you're selling. And I saw a couple of hands, but I saw your hand a little bit ago. Did you have a question back there?
Well, I was just going to say, I think we get bogged down by AI, that it's going to take over, but what we don't realize is baby boomers, Xers, and millennials still value the relationship that is built. So again, back to your mop situation, talk about my dog. But where I was going with all of this is, they say, I don't know who they is, but they say that you're supposed to spend up to 5% of your gross on marketing. Is that still true?
It depends on what your goals are, right? And I think it depends on too, do you have a defined process? What is your goal? Where are you trying to get to? Does it make sense maybe this next year to spend extra in a certain bucket as a risk reward piece? Yeah, I think you, as long as it's smart dollars spent, right? Like we underspent a lot of time, and now we're right now spending more in this one bucket because we've built the machine, right? We've built amazing process on the technical side and how we deliver and blah, blah, blah. This is our next bucket that we have to focus on. So we're spending more than probably what the average is. But we're seeing a return on it too because we're super focused. Now granted, I've put $5,000 in the middle of the floor and it set it on fire and won't do that again. You know, and for some people, that's their yearly marketing budget, if not more. We totally get that. But it's like we now are to the point we have to try different things.
Well, I think even more than like, hey, I need to spend 5%. You can spend 5%, but if you're not doing it strategically, like you said, you might as well light it on fire because it's not going to do anything. So I think maybe thinking more or less like, okay, I have to be spending this much, but thinking more about, okay, what is my strategy with this? Who am I trying to reach? Where are they? Like you were asking, where are they? How do I reach these people? How do I do that? Do I have goals? And obviously Brandon can talk a lot about this. That's what they do. But again, the strategy behind it is huge. You can throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks all day and waste a ton of money. So I think it's like, a lot of times we feel like, oh, well, we got to be doing all this stuff. But that's not necessarily the case. So I think it's maybe before feeling rushed, like we're behind and all that, taking the time to pause and to have a strategy, have a brand strategy, make sure you've got your mission, vision, values, in place, your branding's in a good spot, and then kind of going from there. So I think that's a really good question, but I think maybe, instead of just saying I have to spend this much, maybe thinking more about how, and why.
Saying, if you have all those guidelines in place already, what is the typical?
Yeah.
Well, we look at that a little bit different. We look at the cost to acquire a new customer. Mm-hmm. So cost to acquire and a cost for a conversation. So we look at those two numbers, and you would be floored at what it costs to bring on a managed IT customer in terms of just the dollar marketing amount. So that's kind of how we make some of our decisions to go like, if we know it's $3,000 for us to sign a new IT customer today, I will spend anything up to $2,999 and be positive by $1 to sign a customer. I will write that check today, every day. It doesn't work that way. But I do know that if my cost goes up from what my average is today, we're not winning.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, most often I see the average 6 to 8% is what a lot of businesses a lot. But as Gary said, it should be a sliding scale. If you're trying to break into a new market or you're trying to reach a new customer or you're pivoting, you should expect to spend more because you are going to need extra fuel, so to speak, to reach that customer or reach that new market. We do something similar, especially when it comes to digital advertising, right? If we know that, hey, the average deal is $3,000 for a new customer, then we're going to use metrics in digital advertising to say, okay, well, what's a reasonable range for cost per lead to get you that $3,000? Because at the end of the day, if that's too high, you are at a loss even though you're gaining that customer. So figuring out those details is important. And a lot of businesses struggle with really sitting down and going, what is the average deal or average customer for us? And what is that number and what is the number that I need to hit to reach whatever goal I have? And that's where I do say a little plug for us is spending time discussing goals, discussing how did you come to that number, have you considered these things, and someone that can consult and walk through that can be really valuable because that is probably where businesses go from I have a blanket number I need to hit to how do I hit that number. It's a different kind of thought process and different kind of math to reach that number. saw a couple other hands.
To expand on Dylan's question, my background is majorly in sales. So I've got a little over 2 decades of relationship sales, and then over a decade of management. Being an entrepreneur and trying to blend this marketing, which is a form of sales, and driving in that space, it's very easy to have the conversations of AI because you don't want to spend money into it, but also genuinely I have no idea what I'm doing other than what it tells me to do. So it's like trying to build a house. If you don't know how to build a house, I know it needs 4 walls and a roof and blah blah blah, and I can build a shack, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to sell it for $400,000. What my issue is understanding the indicators that I need to make that switch, that I need to trade my time for somebody else's time, and I need to train my time from a cost saving standpoint into a professionalism standpoint to unify and help me target a vision and help me define that spear tip of what I'm going for, who I'm going for, where I'm going for, and utilize someone else's expertise. Because I mean, if you want to sell to somebody, you could call me and I can sell ice to an Eskimo. But I don't know how or where to transition to find someone like me in a different space, or what that cost associated is, what those indicators are of like revenue has hit this point, profitability has hit this point, I have this much spare. I can now use my time to shake hands with other business owners versus clients, and just expand that net from fishing with a single line to a net. And I know that each one of you have done this transition, and that's one of the biggest things that I have is like trying to figure it out of like, yes, I can slowly grow a business, I can pull in one client at a time, I can put together a website, I can put together a relationship at a time, but really when or what happened in your specific space that transitioned you, that you realized, I probably need to bring somebody in that does this a little better to free me up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question for those online is just, how do you know when is that time to, whether you're hiring internally or outsourcing, to offload responsibilities so that you can focus on growing your business in the best way possible? Is that fair summation? Okay. I'll be curious. I have my answer, but
I do too,
I would say for me, it's if you roughly know how much your time is worth per hour, when whatever the activity is becomes not worth whatever you're worth per hour, it's time for somebody else to do it.
Follow-up question.
Sure.
How do you figure that out?
It depends. Like, so in my personal training world, I charge this much per hour. Yeah. So like when I speak around anything health and wellness, when I do anything around health and wellness, it's not this much per hour. It's probably not worth my time. Sometimes I'll do it. If it puts me in front of an audience I want to be in front of, if it puts me in a situation where I'm going to meet somebody that's going to be helpful for me, I'll do it for free sometimes. But it has to weigh what I think it's going to weigh. Now that's a great follow-up question, like on Grow's side, because I don't have an hourly rate for Grow, right? Like it's a different business model. I don't have an hourly rate for that. So for that, but I still used am I spending way too much time on this? What that I'm not good at. Okay, I am terrible with numbers. Like I was in QuickBooks, and I can tell you right now, that's another thing I'm pretty much banned from. Like, don't go in there. So like when it was like, I'm spending so much time trying to figure this out, when I'm really, really good at planning events and creating really cool experiences, why am I spending my time here when I can make more money if I'm putting my time here that's going to pay for this person that's already good at this over here? Does that make sense?
Well, I think it's a pain tolerance question too, right? Like, what are you just like, I hate this, this is awful, I'm terrible at it, but it needs to be done, right? I think as entrepreneurs, we just have to wear many hats. It's just part of the deal. I don't think there's a true math number for it. You can obviously figure that part out if you're like, okay, I know it's going to be, X, Y, Z. But I think part of it is like, where's the company going? And I think slowing down at the beginning, if we could step back in time and go 15 years back, if we would have spent more time on the foundational stuff of planning, what's our logo and how are we doing this and all the different, colors. I don't know what all we have, all that stuff. But, how are we representing what we're doing? And then building out the personas is who we want to attract as customers to when they hit us inbound, that I don't waste that opportunity, right? Because that's really hey, marketing worked, the phone rang, cash register rang, whatever the metric is. It's the hardest thing. I think our job as well as business owners and leaders in this room, we have to replace ourselves. Right? If we want to give to every nonprofit, that's amazing. The number one thing we all have is to produce other winning people within our organizations. And it's hard. It is so hard because some of them are going to suck. They're going to suck the life out of you. They're going to do a terrible job. But if we train the really good ones really, really well, that frees us up to do other things. So we're trying to completely always figure out how can my brother Michael and I replace ourselves in different tasks. And it's really hard and challenging because sometimes it's a leap of faith to go, should I have kept that? We're struggling with that marketing piece. We're doing it by committee. What a dumbass idea, right? But it's working kind of, but we're now to the point where like, okay. So we need to put pen to paper and go, okay, what is this budget like of adding another person or different relationship on outsourcing some stuff that we're kind of hodgepodging. I think it's the hardest question to ask is what do you bring in next? I think there's some amazing tools we all have to this day, right? You've got all these people that are home workers or looking for part-time stuff and they have really good skills that you can now have different kind of relationships for people to manage certain things. But you have to set them up properly for success. If not, it's wild, wild west, right? And they're controlling all your stuff and then they're mad and then they've locked you out of your own Facebook and then they've done, it's all happened before, right? Like, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I would say, and as an entrepreneur, if you're owning your own business, you are everything. You're doing all this stuff. So but I would say if it comes to a point, if you do have the budget, if it comes to the point that you doing these things are taking away from your main mission and your main service that you provide, then I think maybe that's, and again, it all goes together and that is true. But if you go, hey, I'm spending so much time on this thing over here that I'm not super good at, I don't love that, I'm not meeting client needs, or I'm not, we're not providing the services that we say that we do, then I think that might be a moment that you go, hey, I might need some help so that I can focus on what I do best. I know my mom owned her own bookkeeping business, and her thing was, let me do this so you can do what you do. This, I'm good at this. I like to do this. I'm trustworthy. But, like she was saying with numbers, I'm not a numbers person either, but, a lot of people don't know that. And so that was, and she had clients she was turning away all the time. One, she was trustworthy, but two, because her model was, hey, let me do this thing for you so you can focus on what you do best. And so I guess that's what I would say is if you do have the margin to be able to outsource, I would if it feels like it's taking away from what you actually do. So.
Yeah, and her mom did do that. I did hire her for for a while when I was freelancing on my own. But my answers kind of crossed between a couple of these. It was a matter of, okay, what's my primary role for this organization as a business leader, right? And for me, it was client relationships, providing strategy, and developing revenue for the organization. For me, project management took me away from all of those things. So we made a decision a couple of years ago because we were growing to a point where, again, wearing too many hats, I couldn't do 2 out of those 4 things well. And clients were suffering, we were suffering, there's frustration, right? So we said, okay, project manager. We're going to hire for a project manager. And we added that role to our organization. What did that do? That allowed me to spend more time with clients on that client relationship, strategy conversation, but also go find more revenue for the organization to grow. So just understanding what your role is for the organization and where your strengths lie is a big part of it. And then there is that little bit of, it is an investment to hire anyone, internal or, outsource. understanding that, hey, in doing so, what is the goal for revenues that then makes that a good decision, also makes it known that that's a good hire for us ultimately. And, you know, we look back and talk about throwing money on the floor, like there was a period where I thought, yeah, based on our client base, based on our book of business, I can do these things, I can do project management. Do I wish I would have done that project manager 2 years sooner? Absolutely. Because I realize now, like, wow, look how much our organization has flourished, our clients are having better experiences just because I made a decision, said that is a piece that I can't do anymore at a high enough level to represent our organization. So, okay, there's 2 questions back here.
Okay, so Katie mentioned earlier personal testimonials and how important they are. And in my business especially, I'm a health and wellness coach, so I work, closely and build relationships with my clients. And it's hard for me to capture those primarily because kind of what we talk about is pretty personal. So do you have any suggestions or ideas on how to give those personal testimonials from, satisfied clients, but kind of keep it, keep that personal, the health information out of it? Or
Yeah, that's
Real quick for those online, the question, sorry, I want to make sure they get. So the question is, getting client testimonials from happy customers that there's a lot of personal information, or a lot of businesses, they deal with kind of NDA stuff you can't share. How do you do and get customer testimonials in a way that protects their identity, protects their business, but also helps you grow? Is that the fair summation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, my background, I actually started my career at Open Door Health Services doing marketing. And so, there was times we wanted to get photos, we wanted to get testimonials, and obviously, there's HIPAA, there's all kinds of things there. So that was definitely tricky. And even I'm on the board at First Choice for Women, and we were just talking a recap last night about our annual banquet, and we'd like to have more client testimonials. It can be tricky for a lot of different reasons. I think it, not to go back to that relationship thing, but I think it does. I think, in the past with both of those, you tend to know the people that are okay. I don't want to say with sharing personal information, but some might be more comfortable than others. And so it doesn't mean you have to share personal stuff, but I know as far as the board, we heavily rely on the staff to know, hey, who's the best client that has a great story to share but would be okay with that? Because there's lots of clients that probably have great stories to share, but they're just not comfortable and it's not the right situation. So I think it's just really knowing your clients and understanding maybe some comfortability. And again, you can be careful about how you share and what you share, but I think there is a way to do it. And I really think it comes back to that relationship and knowing those people well so that you can have that conversation. And if they really love you, as I'm sure they do, they'll probably be really excited about that. So it's just finding that balance, I guess you could say, and just really knowing your clients, which I'm sure probably do. So
You ask them to?
That's what I was going to do, but I typically do it, I should be better about this too, when we're kind of wrapping up our time together. I mentioned I'm going to be sending them a opportunity to share feedback with me, and it asks in there. And maybe I need to do it in a different way. Maybe I need to do it in person.
do you ask? Well,
Yes.
do you ask in there can I? Is it just private?
It's not like a give me a testimonial kind
Yeah,
of thing. It asks
yeah.
about their experience and what
Yeah.
aha moments and things like that. And then I do at the end ask if they're willing to share.
Yeah.
And they'll typically share, but anonymously. And I just
Okay.
don't feel like that gives the same credibility.
Yeah, well, maybe, and again, if you have a relationship, you have the client, you're like, I know that we have a great relationship going. They've said good things. But maybe, if you ask, and then maybe you guys can talk through it. And if they have some reservations, you can talk through those reservations. And it could be that you come to the end of that and they're still like, no. But it could be that maybe you talk through that and you're like, this is where I'm coming from with this. This is why I'm wanting to do this. That, like you said, that may, having that face-to-face might. Mm-hmm.
I used to design
Designs for Henrytown Hospital for years. When I worked at Advocacy before I went to Advocacy. And the way we got around, A, the HIPAA, but B, the way you approach it is you have an amazing story that's going to help other people. It's conversation for us. And the way we were able to get those from individuals was to go to the doctor or to go to, and so that's you. If you know their personal story of how it helped their health or how it helped them, and put it into how you want to shine a light on them, and how their story will help others, is totally different than saying, hey, can I get a testimonial? You know what I mean? Because you almost have to pull that out of people. And the way to sell that is to flip the script back to them, that people want to help people, genuinely want to help people. I don't know if that helps, but.
Yeah, and I would say in addition to that, that's very true. People like to be known. They like to be heard. And so sometimes it's just giving them that opportunity, even if you think, hey, they may not want this. Again, it's knowing the right people. But people do like to be known and they like to be heard. So it could be for them an empowering opportunity for them to share their thoughts. So yeah.
I think it's sometimes our own mindset. I talk about this in the Big Ask, especially with women. We don't like to be an inconvenience. We don't like to be a burden. We don't like to feel like we're asking more of someone than they want. Men, you don't seem to have a problem with that. Women have a real problem with that. So if you can, I don't like asking either, and I have to ask all the time for all kinds of things. I've asked both of them for money this year. So that's been a fun adventure. But if you flip it in your own head of if you were working with a health coach and she changed your life and she was like, hey, this referral is going to help me get more business, would you do it? Probably. So other women probably feel the same way.
Well, I think there's a difference, right? Between, are we talking Google or it's part of it, right? That's a different ask than, so.
But that's a really tricky one to get them to do something on Google.
It is, but your friends and family should love you, and that's a great place to start. Okay. But don't have them all post on the same day. And then have them put the keywords in, of hey, I need you to say this, script it for them, and be like, hey, if you need me to log into your own damn Google account, I'm going to do it. Is building that up that way. And friends also kind of all over the place from Indianapolis to Fort Wayne to wherever. Google is really good at kind of breaking their algorithm, which I think is a different thing potentially than, if you're just looking for that in Facebook, those might be different than, hey, I'm looking for somebody to be a picture on the website or to post on another thing.
Website to picture on the website.
Yeah.
I understand where you're going.
Yeah. What we often employ is, whether it's a case study or testimonial, it's usually a personal ask, hey, we're wanting to write a case study, we're wanting to write a testimonial, because again, something about your story is going to help someone else, or helps resonate with others. But we always make sure too that they know you'll get to see it before I publish it. And a lot of times that can take a lot of the fear right out of it, because they get a chance to see their story before their story is told. And it also helps protect you in your kind of line of work too. You get written permission, yep, that's good. Yeah. All right, great. I'm glad we were able to work out what your story is. And I like Lynn's example as well. Your clients, your customers, they're the heroes of the story, not you. So if you can tell it in a way that they're the hero, that's when I think you got a winning testimonial and case study. I saw a question there.
Well, it was kind of funny because it was along the same lines as her, but I mean, word of mouth is huge, obviously, in building your business. So do you put part of your marketing towards getting that out there? We have a platform that we send asking for not referrals, but how their experience was when we send their invoice to them. So, I mean, that helps a lot because we have a really good Google / whatever reviews, and I think that helps also build your business.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. What industry are you in?
Septic.
Septic? Okay.
I would just hang out all day with her, and it's so fun.
Well, and I think that's great. I mean, I know personally, when I'm always looking local. And then, I'm looking at reviews because I want to know, I want to know what people say, good and bad. Because, again, as a brand, we can speak for ourselves. We're our biggest advocates, and that's huge. We should do that, and we should invest in that. But like you said, that word of mouth is huge, and it is hard to cultivate that because you can only control so much of it. But I think there are a lot of really great tools. I know when I leave the doctor now. I mean, I get a text that's like, hey, will you share your experience with us? And then a lot of times it sends me to, will you leave a review? And I'm lazy and I tend to not, but I think it's great that there are those tools out there that put that in front of your face, because, there probably is someone out there that's like, sure, I'll do that, real fast. And so, yeah, I think that can be a really, really great tool.
Yeah, I think word of mouth works a couple of different ways. One, delivering great service, great product. They want to tell people. But I think too, part of our responsibilities is when you have a great customer experience one-to-one, you delivered something, they're like, this is fantastic. Using that opportunity to ask for a review or ask for that testimonial, but also, do you know anyone else that would benefit from this? And lastly, would you like to be a reference? So if I'm talking to somebody with a similar situation, I can give them your name and you can tell them what it's like to work with us. So you can leverage word of mouth as well, just from the relationships you have, because you've earned it at that point. You've done a good job for that client. We have time probably for one, maybe two more questions. This is great. Any other questions from the audience? I thought I saw maybe hands go up, but.
Yes.
It's not so much a question, it's just, my name is Mark. I'm 21 years in this area in my business, doing just great, looking to actually probably start a transition out. But I started coming to these because of that reason, for a new owner or changing the brand or something. You guys have all touched on something that was probably the most important thing in 20 years of my business in marketing, and that is customer retention. You have to get back to your customer.
Yep.
You have to understand what you did right and what you did wrong. And in doing that, believe me, you want to talk about word of mouth, and if we have one young lady here that's just asked, that stuff for a local business, my business only reaches out maybe 20, 25 miles from my brick and mortar place. So that part of marketing is more important than what logo I picked, what slogan I have. Because I think if in starting a business, you need to just decide yourself who I am, what is it that I'm going to offer, start on it, stick with it like you guys said. But in the part of the branding is going to be you getting back to your customers and knowing what you did and what you did not do right. So it's not a question, it's just I'm wanting to point something out. You touched on it, but I don't think you touched on it enough. It's probably one of the biggest marketing tools you guys can use.
Yeah, I agree. That's huge. I mean, even just what I do at the chamber, of course, I'm working to get new members. I want new members to join us. Brittany joined us a couple years ago, and then we've got, two sitting up here that have been with us for a long time, but retention is huge. If I can get someone to stay, it means that they believe in what we do, they've gotten a good experience from what we do, and they're going to probably invest 10 times more than new members are important. I'm not saying that, and we're all trying to find new clients. You've got to do that. You have to bring in new business. You've got to keep that, but making sure that they have a good experience, and like you said, all those other touch points, that's huge, because if you can get them and keep them, you're going to have a client for life. And so, yeah, I think that's a great point. Yep.
And I think the point you made builds trust, right? Like if you're willing to not just get the good reviews, but to let them tell you what they didn't like or what could have been better, and addressing it because you care. At our conference, I sought Julianne out specifically because I knew she would tell me the things she didn't like. And I value that because I don't get to, as the owner of the conference company, I don't get to experience the event like everybody else does. And some people, because I own it, will just be like, it's so great, I loved it, great, great, great. And Julianne told me what she liked, but she told me what she thought could be better. And that's super valuable for me. And I think as a business owner, when you can show that you value the things that they didn't appreciate or didn't like, that helps build trust that they'll come back to.
So I'm assuming you're in the service business?
Yes.
What business are you in?
Automotive service.
Oh, yeah, wonderful. Oh, yeah, I know where you're at.
I'm going to say.
Yeah, we're right down the road from each other. One of the things that we're trying to teach the rest of our team, as owners and leaders, sometimes they don't have the same visibility as we have of maybe internal frustrations and external frustrations. Yesterday we had a municipality client that, I don't know if you guys know, Windows 11 upgrades have been a thing. Yeah, most of you, if you're a Windows person, you've had to deal with it. We've been dealing with it for about 2 years. We had about 3,000 computers to upgrade, either replace new or upgrade operating systems. We probably have 50 left because customers are dragging their feet. We had a client last week that the upgrade then broke our machine and it reboots 3 times a day. Are they frustrated? Who else is frustrated? My team. They've tried to log in and fix it. We've sent somebody on site, and they've been there for 3 or 4 hours, and it seemed to work. And then she called in Friday, frustrated again that it's still happening in the middle of a Zoom call, and just all this stuff. They're a newer customer. So yesterday, and I'm sitting there like waiting on the team to be like, okay, what are you guys going to do? What are you going to suggest to do that we fix this? And that's where we have to do a better job of leaders. Ashley came to me and was like, hey, Emmett's frustrated, and what do we do? And we need to go on site again. I'm just sitting there going like, we are burning hours and we're burning trust. So I was like, well, how much is a new, refurb nice PC, right? We're going to put her in a better spot. $322. Well, what do you want to do, Ashley? I think we should just go ahead and order one. Perfect. Do you want to call Teresa? Or do you want me to? Can you call her? Absolutely. So Teresa sees my phone number come up, and she's like, Gary, are you going to yell at me again that I need to get a new computer? I'm like, no, but I'm going to be Gary Claus today, and you're frustrated. My team's frustrated. We need to solve you a problem. You're a brand new customer. We're going to install a new computer on Thursday for you. So I then asked for a referral to another, like, hey, who else do you know that, clerk treasurer that could be? So she sent me to another client that I haven't called yet. I'll probably call him today, or I'll stop by and see him. But it's to your point. I think those little bitty instances, we can build a lot of trust with a customer. And is it going to cost us something? Hell yeah, it is. And I'm okay with that, right? Because it's like, that to me is better marketing spent than anything else. She's never going to leave us. She left the other company for that, probably that same reason. They were always trying to sell me something. They didn't make something right. They didn't. But it's like our job now, how do we empower the rest of the team to go, you guys can solve these problems. But sometimes they're not going to. That's, I think, our job. And like, we're going to see it from a different perspective than they do and go like, to hell, we just got to fix this. Like, that's why they went with Leap. They went with us to go, if it's a bad day, we're going to show up and see them. They might not like the answer, but we're going to be holding their hand. And I don't know how you put that in a marketing budget. I really, really don't. But I think it's the advantage we have as small independent business owners. We can be more nimble, we can be faster, and we can be more creative than anybody else. So, and that's our job.
Yeah, a lot of times what we measure is just client retention or client revenue retention, right? Like how many clients are we going to maintain year to year? How many clients, do they need a larger marketing service, and having those conversations and building that trust, because I don't know of many businesses that if they don't have some sort of repeat customer, that they're going to be very successful very long, because you're just constantly churning through trying to just bring in new all the time. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That is a part of virtually any business, even if it's selling widgets. A lot of times you need somebody to buy more widgets, buy more mops, buy more hammers, buy more drills and things like that. So you wanted to make sure you deliver on the right tools and results. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. I got a couple of housekeeping items. First, tell us how we did. So behind Gary's head is a QR code. So it may look like you're taking pictures of Gary. I'll just tell him you're scanning. But that is a chance for you to let us know at Intersessions how we did, right? We want to know the good. We want to know the bad. But we also are building our 2026 lineup. So we already have January lined up. It is about AI. We had 2 or 3 questions about AI. So I hope to see those folks here for sure. But it'll be talking about how do you use it from a data standpoint? How do you build some processes so it becomes a true business tool, not just a marketing tool? So Chris Thiessen from Bullpen Consulting down in Noblesville, Indiana is driving up here to present. But we are building out the rest of the year. So if you have other topics or other speakers you know about, pass them my way. I'm happy to reach out and start conversations with the right people to make sure that this is still valuable for you. So let us know how we did. and give us that feedback. And I promised Ted I would just remind everybody today at 5:30 at the Clubhouse Muncie down on the corner of Walnut and Main is their tech meetup, and it's from 5:30 to 7. They're encouraging you to be there. Just mingle, get to know people. It is a networking event, so that's another chance, I think, for business owners and marketers to get to know others. So again, thank you for attending. Thank you for your time today, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you.